Hey guys, how's everybody doing during quarantine? So I posted a while back that I would make a disassembly video and stuff, talk a little bit about some common guns that are out there and that you might be interested in, since I know there's been a lot of new gun owners lately, and maybe I can give you a little bit of information that you could use and some stuff like that by showing you some of the guns that I own and I have experience with. And here's my beautiful baby telling everyone how amazing I am. I don't know if I agree, but there she is. And so I will get to it. I don't know how long my phone will record a video because I've never really taken a super long video with my phone. So hopefully everything goes well. You won't see me for the rest of the video. I'll just be talking. You'll see my hands and stuff. But hopefully this will do somebody some good. If you have any other questions about gun stuff or anything, you can just send me a message and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. So I am going to recenter my camera and we will get started.
My daddy needs to get started.
Yep, Ainsley, could you go in the living room, please?
I just want to see Daddy's gun.
Oh, you've seen all of them. Okay, so first we're going to start with the least expensive option I have here. This is a pistol from Taurus called the... Let's see, I'm a bad friend right now. It's called the Taurus. I can't find my owner's manual.
I gotta go potty.
I guess if we look on the gun here, it probably says, oh yeah, it's a G2S. So you can see that there, it says G2S, 9mm. And by the way, that's a good way you can discover what caliber a gun is a lot of time if you look on the slide, which is this part that moves back and forward. Or the barrel sometimes says it too. This is the chamber of the barrel. It'll tell you what caliber it is. You look around, it'll also say a lot of times the manufacturer and where it is made at. Just some semi-useful information. So this pretty much represents what's called a striker-fired handgun. This one's, like I said, chambered in 9mm. Striker-fired just means that the firing pin is actuated by an internal striker instead of a hammer, which is another common firing system for pistols and rifles as well. And so this one, you get standard three dot sights, which I can't really show you the sight picture here too well because I can't see my camera very well, but basically 2 dots for the rear sight, 1 dot for the front sight. And this cost about $200 to $250, brand new. Okay, Ainsley, okay, off the table please. And pretty simple gun. I've had good luck with it so far. Has a manual safety right here if that's your thing. And so I'm going to show you how to disassemble. Most striker-fired guns disassemble this way. So obviously, step one, this is a magazine, is make sure that there is no magazine in the gun. Make sure the gun is unloaded. And when you're doing that, you want to pull the slide back. And you can use the slide lock right here to lock the slide back. And then look inside of the chamber and verify there's nothing in there. And then you can take like your pinky too, or a pipe cleaner or something, and just verify, even though you looked through the gun in the barrel to make sure there's no bullet in there. You want to feel tactily that there is too. It's just a good measure to do to make sure. That way you have 2 layers of verification saying, hey, I know my gun's unloaded. Because with a lot of these striker-fired handguns, you have to pull the trigger to take them down. There are some that you don't have to do that for, but it is definitely more common that you do. So to disassemble it, you pull the slide back, obviously after verifying that your gun is unloaded, like I just showed you. And then there's this takedown tab right here. It's on both sides of the gun. Pull it down about half, all the way, pull the trigger, and the slide comes off. Just slides right off the top of the frame. Then you got your recoil guide rod and recoil spring. Got your barrel, got your slide. Now there's some other parts in here too, but for field stripping purposes, cleaning your gun and all that, that's pretty much all you need to do. And then, you know, obviously you'd use some gun cleaner, run a patch down the barrel and all that. But, you know, if you want to know more about how to do that, if you got a gun, you don't know how to do it, I'd be happy to help you with any questions, or maybe, you know, if you want to come over or something, that's fine too, if you know me that well. So that's about it for this one. Like I said, pretty much all striker fired handguns disassemble that way, some don't. I got Ainsley telling me which one I should show next, so that's fine. Thanks, honey. The next one is a CZ-75B. That's probably my favorite handgun that I own. And this would represent a double action, single action handgun. Some of them disassemble differently. However, don't mess with that, Ainsley. Come on. CZ-75 design is very popular, so you'd be able to find a lot of I guess you'd call them off-brand manufacturers that make the same style of gun, disassembles the same, fires the same, all that. I already have the magazine out of this one, but same steps are included. So you pull the slide back, look inside, try and get you a good angle here, and verify that it's empty. Use your pinky again in the chamber. Verify there's nothing in there. This one is a little bit different than your striker-fired handgun. I wouldn't say it's hard to disassemble, but it's definitely a little bit harder. Now, your CZ-75 type handguns are a little bit different than other handguns because they have the slide is actually inside of the frame of the gun instead of on the outside like most handguns. I could go on a long rant about how I think, you know, it makes it better, but this is not an opinion video. I'm just trying to show you guys some basic stuff. So to disassemble this gun, you'll see there's some notches. I'm trying to get you a good picture here. There's some notches on the slide and on the frame. Basically, all you're doing, I'm going to move the camera to try to get it in line here, and I'm going to see if I can do this while looking at the camera. So you see these two notches here. What you want to do to disassemble the gun is you want to line up those notches. You can kind of like cock your hammer. This is like a half cock position, and that makes it really easy. Now what I do, see if I can reach forward far enough to see this, I put my one hand on top of the slide, push it back a little bit just to get those notches to line up, and then this is your slide release, and that's also how the gun comes apart. So you push in on it from the other side, and then you can just pull the pin out. It's a little bit different on my gun because I have a fully ambidextrous handgun. That means, in case you don't know, that you know, it has controls for left-handed people. So I'm one of them evil left-handed heathens. I'll just show you. There's slide release on this side of the gun too. But for most CZ-type handguns that you would buy, that won't be there. So now, all you do, now that your takedown pin is out, is you should be able to just let sometimes you'll have to pull the trigger a little bit to release the slide, and then it just slides right off the frame. Same thing. Now that you got your gun taken apart, you got your frame here. And then this is pretty similar to the other handgun, the Taurus. So you got your recoil spring and guide rod. It's a little tight in there right now. That's like right here. Now some of the recoil springs and guide rod assemblies are a little different on handguns, but they all pretty much do the same thing. You got your barrel. You got your slide. See how the rails here are on the inside of the gun. So then, just like any other pistol, you know, when you're cleaning, you're going to want to clean in here. You're gonna want to clean here inside. This. It's kind of hard to angle it in so you can see it, but right here is where the firing pin comes through, so you want to keep that clean. And then just put a little bit of oil on your rails here and clean them. Now we'll just put it back together. Put your barrel in first. Put in your recoil assembly. You always want the guide rod. The spring will be going into the slide like this, and then your guide rod will be contacting the barrel. And you can actually, hold on, you can actually see, I don't know if this is present on the other CZ type manufactured guns, but kind of hard to get a good look at this, but you can see there's a little indent there for the guide rod to rest in. That way it keeps it from basically coming out of position while the gun's operating. And you just push in your spring, make sure it's in place, and then you line up your rails and outside and inside. Stay off the table, Ainsley. Tell your child to stay out of the way. That's an extra, of course, optional, I guess. Especially optional if you don't have any kids. So and then you just take your takedown pin, put it back in. As you got your notches lined up here, squeeze it back together. And then make sure, obviously your gun's still unloaded. Make sure your trigger works. Cycle the slide and make sure that your trigger resets. Hear that click? That's the reset. That way you know that you have reassembled it properly. And you would do that with the striker fired handguns too. I just kind of forgot to mention it.
Daddy, is
All right.
that a bag of cereal for me?
Yes, honey.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now I will get to a 22 rimfire handgun. It's actually my wife's, Ashley. Some of you guys might know her. So this is more of a type of gun for... Yes, your mama's, Ainsley. This is more of a type of gun for recreation. Recreational shooting. 22 long rifle is a pretty weak cartridge compared to almost every other cartridge out there. So just for some reference here.
That's my mommy's gun.
That's right, Ainsley. So, trying to get in the camera here. This is a 22 long rifle. As you can see, it's pretty small. This is a 9mm, a very common pistol cartridge, and regarded by some people as being, somewhat less powerful than a lot of other pistol cartridges. Don't touch that, Ainsley. Okay, I know you're just trying to help, but don't touch it.
Can I give Mama help?
Now, another reason you don't want to really, I guess, try to avoid using a 22 if you're buying this gun for self-defense is this is a rim-fired cartridge. This 9mm is centerfire. Centerfires just, they tend to be a lot more reliable than rimfires. That was just a little bit. If you have more questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them too, because it can get kind of complicated, but it's, just don't do it. Ashley, she has neuropathy. Her hands are weak, and she hasn't been able to find a weapon other than this one that she can really operate. So it's better than a sharp, pointy stick, I guess. This is a Ruger SR22. It's a pretty popular gun, pretty common, easy to use. It's got a small grip. It's easy, if you're trying to train a new shooter or, your kids or something, if they're old enough and they're responsible. This is double action, single action, like my CZ, but it operates a lot differently. You got your safety here, and you got your slide release here, magazine release here. Now this one has a different operating system, so it takes down a lot different than a lot of your centerfire guns, and a lot of 22 handguns kind of disassemble weird. I own a Ruger Mark III pistol, which is very popular target shooting hunting type semi-automatic 22 long rifle handgun. I did not decide to include it in the video because taking those handguns down for disassembly is a nightmare. And I didn't want to look like a jackass on camera, and you'd probably hear me swearing a lot more than just that, so I didn't include it. But I'll take this down for you, show you how to do it, and I'll try to get it as well as I can.
Mama, get one
Ainsley,
more.
don't touch that stuff, okay? Why don't you go in the living room, please?
I do want to see.
Fine, but I told you not to touch things, okay? So, basically what you do is there's this little tab here in the trigger guard.
Okay, Daddy?
Alright, honey. And you just pull it out, like so that it's flush, I guess, sticking down. Basically, that locks into the barrel. And then, you'll cock your hammer. You gotta make sure that you gotta make sure you're not unsafe. Gotta be on fire, I think. I don't know, I haven't tried it any other way, to be honest, so maybe I'll mess around with that a little bit some other time. And same thing, verify that your handgun's unloaded. Lock your slide back with your slide lock here. And then, it's hard to see because the chamber's so small, but it is empty. And then, same thing, just take your finger or something and verify that it's empty. With 22, the chamber's pretty small, so you'll probably have to use something smaller than your finger if you want to be, sure. So now what you're going to do is you actually pull this all the way back and up, and that releases the slide. And then you'll see how different it is you got your barrel right here that's actually fixed to the frame, and then your recoil assembly, your recoil spring, and your guide rod actually rides right under the barrel. And if we can take a look down there, there's a little spot that it sits. It's very important that you get your guide rod in that spot and that you put the guide rod down that way and have your spring sticking up. Otherwise, your gun won't go back together. And if somehow it does, it ain't gonna work right. And the reassembly is the same. Honestly, it's so much easier to take apart than it is to put back together. And then you just go back in here and close that. Now this handgun has what's called the trigger safety, or a magazine safety. That means that when the magazine is out, shouldn't be able to fire it or pull the trigger. This is an empty magazine. And I'm just using it in this video for the purposes of verifying that you reassembled your pistol correctly. So now what I'm going to do, just like with all the other handguns, is pull the slide back. Now you're going to have your magazine lock up the action, that's fine. And you'll hold your trigger back, take your magazine out, then release the slide. And then you got to put the magazine back in now because of the magazine safety. And then you just want to hear that click to verify that the firearm is properly reassembled. Now, when you have a rimfire gun like this one, Ruger is a little bit different. They say that it's okay to dry fire this gun, but a lot of rimfire handguns or firearms in general, you should not dry fire. You might break some stuff, and just probably not a good idea. That's it for this one. This one retails somewhere around $300, give or take $100. I don't know. Ashley and I bought this quite a while ago, so don't really know what it goes for right now, but definitely should be a gun you could find out there, and a really good choice for somebody like if you are just getting into shooting, especially just getting into handgun shooting. Shooting a handgun's kind of more difficult than shooting a long gun. It takes more practice. You don't have as many contact points on your body, so it's harder to get good at, I guess you'd say. And this is in 22, so you can afford to shoot it a lot. And for a newer shooter, you might be, sensitive to recoil and stuff like that, and it's good to start out with a good base and not develop a bunch of bad habits. There's nothing wrong with starting out with the 22. Now, I'm just going to show you guys a couple common long guns. Well, a couple common ones that I own. There's a lot more common ones out there, but these are a couple common rifles that I have that I can tell you some stuff about. Yes, honey. You're welcome. Yep. I'll start out with I guess probably the favorite gun I own. This is my Zastava Serbian AK-47 in 7.62 by 39. This is the round that it shoots, 7.62 by 39. Pretty cheap, that's why I like it for centerfire rifle rounds. When everything's, yeah, honey, when everything's not going crazy and ammo prices are, I guess you'd say, normal. That guy right there is usually only about 20 cents a round, as opposed to a lot of other centerfire rifle calibers are considerably more expensive per shot than that.
Daddy, can you give me one?
Despite what you might hear in the media, this is 30 round magazine. This is standard capacity magazine for this rifle. It's not a high capacity magazine. This is what it is designed to use.
If you want one.
Now, this gun, it operates a lot different than a handgun, but not really if you kind of know how things work, I guess you'd say. I got the safety on right now, so first you gotta, in order to disassemble it, you gotta take the safety off. And you do the same thing. This is a little bit more complicated because on mine I can actually lock, this is the bolt right here. This is the charging handle, and on mine I can actually lock my bolt back to verify that the chamber is empty. On a lot of AKs, you can't do that, but I will do that so I can practice what I preach and safety check the gun. So see, now I got my bolt lock back. The safety actually has a cutout in it right here to lock your bolt back. And if you have an AK or you're looking at one that doesn't have that, but you can actually change the safety out pretty easy to one that does have a cutout in it, so it's not really a big deal. And then so kind of harder to get on camera here because, you know, obviously a long gun's a lot longer than a handgun, so, but same rules apply. You know, make sure your magazine well's empty, make sure your chamber's empty, and then just take your finger and verify physically that it's empty. And then you gotta let your bolt go home, so take your safety off and just let her go. And now this will be a little bit more complicated because, you know, I don't have some pro setup, and well, like I said, long guns are longer, so you might have to see my ugly body a little bit. Now this button right here, think of it as like a takedown button. So to start field stripping your gun, you got to press your button in, and then at the top pops off. It's called a dust cover. Let's see if I can just put this sideways, it'll be easier. Okay, so now you got your recoil spring right here that's attached to the button. And you got your bolt right here, bolt carrier and bolt. First thing you do is you push in on the recoil spring. It rests right here. Take that out. And then your bolt and bolt carrier isn't held by anything anymore. So that'll just pop out. Now this is your bolt carrier right here. This is your gas piston. And then the bolt, you just twist it and it pops right out. Just put that there. Now, most of the time that's all you need to do to field strip and clean an AK. I'm going to show a couple other things because you might need to do it sometime if you have one. Here by the rear sight is the takedown lever that releases the gas tube, and you should check the gas tube too when you disassemble it. These can be kind of tight, so I wouldn't recommend trying to do it with just your hand. AKs are known for having some sharp edges on them in some places, a lot of places. And so don't try to move this takedown lever with your hand. Maybe after you've had the gun for a while, it'll loosen up and you can do that. But I have had this Estava AK for probably about 5 years, and it's still, I mean, I probably could move it with my hand if I tried really hard, but I'd probably get cut in the process too, so I wouldn't recommend it. But a lot of times what I do is you can take a pliers or something that isn't going to mar up the finish and move it. But if you're out in the field, you don't have one, this bolt carrier's got a cutout in it, and you don't need to worry about hurting its steel. You just take that cutout and move up your takedown lever. You want that to be pointing up. You just gotta mess around with it a little bit. And that's your gas tube. Basically, when you're, I'll try and get some light to shine through it here. When you're field stripping and cleaning your gun, you just want to look through it and make sure that there are no obstructions. That's pretty much all you're doing. Another thing is your lower handguard too could come off. Usually you don't have to do that unless you're doing something to it, but in case you do something like that, there's a little lever right here, and you got to take that and push it up. You're going to need a tool to do that, nothing special, flat blade screwdriver, something like that, and then that allows the handguard to come off. So the reassembly is the same thing backwards, just like everything else we've showed here. Still got to have your lever facing up. Then the gas tube just slides back on, and then you just push the lever back down. Same thing here. It's easier to get down than it is to pull up. You probably just seen me put it on there without using the bolt, but it is definitely a lot harder to remove. So now we gotta put our bolt back in the bolt carrier. And do that, you just put it inside of this hole here. What's called the tail of the bolt faces in. The other side won't go in, so I guess you don't need to worry about doing backwards. Right now, the way it is currently, you can just pull it out. So you twist it, and then that will cause the bolt to lock into the bolt carrier. You pretty much have to do that in order to get it to go back together. So now you take your piston and put it inside of where your gas tube goes. And you got two rails right here. I guess I don't have my, not far enough in the camera here. Hold on. Maybe this is better. Okay, that looks better. So you got rails inside here. That's what your bolt rides on, and bolt carrier. So you put your piston inside of the gas tube, and there's rails in the bolt carrier too. So what you got to do is you got to line them rails up, and you kind of push down on the whole thing, and then slide it forward. Should go pretty easy. However, sometimes if you pull the trigger at some point when you're disassembling the gun, this is your hammer right here, and it will go forward. If your hammer is forward, you won't be able to put your bolt carrier back on. You have to have it cocked. Now, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to show you what you will do if that happens. I'm going to pull the trigger. Obviously, the gun's empty. Okay, so your hammer would look like this. Be sticking straight up. Now, you can just cock it with your thumb. Just push it down. And it locks in there. So, now you put your recoil assembly back in. Goes right in the top of the bolt carrier here. And then you'll push it in a little bit. and then it locks in the notch here. Now this is going to be the fun part to try to get on camera. You got your dust cover now, and you got to put that back on top. And it's got this, got this cutout here. That's where the button goes, through the top. So what you got to do is, try and see if I can show you here. This is where the end that goes forward of the dust cover will lock in. So what you're going to want to do, take your dust cover, push it in there, and try and put it on the table so I can get some leverage here. And then, it's actually a little bit harder on the Zastava guns, the Yugoslavian AKs, because they have, like, I don't know, I've always had a harder time with them, but...
Wow.
Ainsley, what did I tell you about touching stuff? Stop. So then, you're going to want to push in a little bit, and push down. I don't know if I'm really giving you much of a view here, but... Usually, when you're not on camera, this is pretty easy. Oh, it looks like a piece of a trash bag, Ainsley. I'm sure you guys are getting some good comedy right now.
My daddy, the great daddy.
I'm just going to do this real quick.
My daddy.
Outside the camera. Step aside, honey.
My daddy's the great daddy.
Thanks, honey. I thought I almost had it. And the longest reassembly of an AK record goes to yours truly. Okay, you heard that pop. That was this push takedown button going back into place, and that locks the dust cover into place. Some water must have got on the floor, Ainsley, so that's pretty much what you need to know about taking apart an AK. Every AK takes apart the same pretty much, and it is not nearly as hard as you just watched me struggle doing. Wire AKs, good guns to buy because they're fun to shoot. Ammo's cheap. Hi, Ainsley. We can play with the camera later, okay? Get out of the view, please. And it fires, you know, a reasonably potent round. Not a lot of people really choose AKs as like a home defense gun, but if you get decent ammo, you could definitely do that. I think I've probably rambled on a little bit too long about this one, but there you go. That's, I guess, what you need to know about an AK. If you have any other questions about them, you can certainly ask. I'll respond. I could go on and talk about AKs forever and ever. They're my favorite guns, so I'll just put that aside for now. Don't mess with that, Ainsley. You're going to drop it. Now, I will get out the last demonstration I have.
Good job, Daddy. Good jobbies. Good job.
Ainsley's given me plenty of
Good jobbies.
encouragement
Good
here,
jobbies.
so I guess that's good.
Stop.
The last one here is
Daddy,
AR-15.
Daddy.
Try to get it all in the picture here. So
This thing is really soft.
this is not an automatic weapon, despite what you may have heard in the media. It's just semi-automatic.
Daddy.
One pull of the trigger equals one bullet, basically. Feeds from a 30-round magazine. That is standard capacity, just like I said, just like the AK-47. Except this one fires a, smaller, lighter bullet. Moves a lot faster, though. A lot of people use ARs to defend their homes with. Police officers use them. The same cartridge is, the same round is used in the military. They use them. It's a good gun. And what are the advantages of it? Well, you get 30 rounds. That's good. It's a light gun. And this cartridge has light recoil. Anybody can operate one of these guns. you know, after you've been showed how to use one. They're light recoil, so, you know, it's easy to control. It's easy to teach somebody how to shoot it. It's just a good gun.
Daddy,
Would I say that an AR-15 is my favorite gun? No,
Daddy,
but this isn't a video about what my favorite gun is.
Daddy.
So for this one, you do kind of need like a tool, or at least I do for mine, to disassemble it for cleaning because it has takedown pins. And at least with my example, Ainsley, get out from under the tripod, please. Thank you. With my example, it does take a tool to get those pins out. So what you're going to want to do, first, this is the charging handle right here.
Daddy, can I play this?
Yeah, honey.
Thank you.
And you pull that back, verify that your chamber's empty like everything else. If you have an empty magazine, this magazine is not empty. Hold on, I should have one somewhere.
How is this so hot?
And just so you can see, it's empty. That right there is the magazine follower. That's what the bullets rest on. Okay, so for some reason my gun's not locking back, but usually this will lock back. Your bolt will lock back, and then you can, put your finger in there like I showed you guys and verify that the chamber's empty. So this is your magazine release right here. That releases your magazine. We already verified that the gun's empty. Now, you can find a million videos on YouTube about pretty much any of these guns, about how to take them apart, and it's going to be way better than mine. So if you do, end up purchasing a gun like this, or any gun, YouTube's a good resource for looking up how to disassemble firearms and different things about them, and just a good source of information. So now that we have verified that the firearm is empty, we're going to need to take out the takedown pins. The takedown pins, there's one right here. There's one right here. So each one has a thicker end and a thinner end. I don't know if it's that way on all ARs, all takedown pins, but it is for mine. So you just take your tool or whatever. Like I said, if your lower receiver, that's this whole part right here, is a little bit looser, your takedown pins aren't so big, then it probably won't take a takedown tool to take it apart. I've seen people use a bullet, a 5.56 bullet, or an empty case to do it. You could certainly do that. It's probably better than the Allen wrench I'm using, but because it won't mar up your receiver if you miss. But you just push on the pin. This one is giving me some trouble. Well, I'm gonna start with the other one instead. I think I actually used a hammer last time to get this together, so I might actually have to do that again. But all right, so I got my one pin. You can get captive pins that stay in the gun. These ones are not. Captive just means that you pull it all the way out and it just stays hanging there at the end. These ones are not captive. That gives, is what holds the front of the upper receiver. That's your whole part here, and the barrel and all that, to the lower receiver. There's two halves on AR-15.